"You taste like cheap tequila and trouble," I whispered, my lips brushing hers as I spoke, the words hanging in the humid air between us. A low, husky laugh vibrated against my mouth. "And you taste like a good girl who's tired of being good." God, she was right. My name is Lily, and 3 hours ago, the most daring thing I'd done was use a pen from the hotel lobby without asking. Now I was in a stranger's bedroom, pressed against a door, being thoroughly kissed by a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a rock music video and directly into my deepest, most secret fantasies. It started at the penthouse party. My roommate, Chloe, had dragged me there, promising it would broaden my horizons. The place was a sensory overload pulsating base, bodies slick with sweat, the sharp, sweet smell of spilled cocktails. I felt like a ghost haunting my own life, clinging to a red solo cup of warm beer, watching everyone else, live. That's when I saw her. She was the epicenter of the chaos. Ava. A whirlwind of leather and confidence, with dark hair that fell in messy waves and a smirk that hinted at deliciously bad decisions. She moved through the crowd like she owned every atom of space around her. I couldn't look away. Every time her gaze swept the room, a jolt of something electric and terrifying shot through me. Our eyes met once, for a fraction of a second. My heart didn't just skip a beat. It performed a frantic, stumbling tap dance against my ribs. I looked away instantly, my face flushing. "You're imagining it." She didn't really look at you. But she did. A while later, as I was trying to calculate the least embarrassing time to ask Chloe if we could leave, a voice spoke directly into my ear, bypassing the thumping music. "That drink looks as bored as you do." I jumped. Ava was right beside me, leaning against the wall, her arm brushing mine. The contact was a brand. Hot. Immediate. It's not so bad," I stammered, my voice barely a squeak. She took the cup from my trembling hand and set it on a nearby table without looking. Liar. Her eyes, a startling shade of hazel under the strobe lights, held mine. "Come with me." It wasn't a question. It was a command wrapped in velvet. My brain, the part that always did the right thing, screamed a dozen protests. "You don't know her. This is reckless. You have work in the morning." My body, however, had a different opinion. A warm, heavy pulse had begun deep in my core, throbbing in time with the music. My skin felt hypersensitive, every brush of my clothes a whisper. What if? I gave a weak, token resistance. "I shouldn't, my friend." Ava just smiled, a slow, predatory thing that made my knees weak. She didn't argue. She simply took my hand, her fingers lacing through mine with an assured familiarity that stole my breath and led me away from the crowd. I let her. I followed her down a hallway, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my sternum, until she pushed open a door and pulled me into the relative quiet of a dimly lit bedroom. The door clicked shut, muting the party to a dull roar. We were alone. The air was thick, charged. "Now," she murmured, her voice a low thrum that went straight through me. "Let's see what's under all that nervous energy." Before I could form a thought, her hands were on my waist, solid and sure. And then her mouth was on mine. It wasn't a gentle, exploratory kiss. It was a claiming. Her lips were insistent, skilled, parting my own with an easy confidence that left me dizzy. The taste of her, tequila, mint, and something uniquely, intoxicatingly her, flooded my senses. This is what it's like. The thought was a distant, shimmering thing. This is what it's like to kiss a woman. A small, helpless sound escaped my throat, a moan I didn't recognize as my own. It seemed to ignite something in her. Her hands slid from my waist, one tangling in my hair to tilt my head back, the other splaying across the small of my back to press our bodies flush together. I was melting, every bone in my body turning to liquid heat. My own hands, which had been frozen at my sides, came up to clutch at the soft leather of her jacket. I was kissing her back now, tentatively at first, then with a growing, desperate hunger I never knew I possessed. More. I need more. She broke the kiss, both of us breathing heavily. Her eyes were dark, pupils blown wide. "Tell me to stop," she challenged, her voice rough. The words were there. I could say them. I should say them. But all that came out was a ragged, "Don't you dare." Her smirk returned, fiercer this time. She spun me around so my back was against the door, her body caging me in. Her mouth found my neck, her teeth grazing the sensitive skin below my ear. A sharp, exquisite bolt of pleasure pain shot straight down my spine, coalescing into a throbbing ache between my legs. "Oh, God. You're so responsive," she breathed against my skin, her hands sliding down to my hips. "I knew you would be." Her fingers found the hem of my top and tugged it upward. I raised my arms, a willing participant in my own undoing. The cool air hit my heated skin, followed a second later by the scorching heat of her palms as they cupped my breasts through my lace bra. My head fell back against the door with a soft thud. "Ava." "I've got you," she whispered, her thumbs circling my nipples, drawing them into tight, aching peaks through the fabric. The sensation was so intense, so focused, it blurred my vision. Every nerve ending was on fire, singing a song only she could conduct. She unclasped my bra with a deft flick of her wrist, and it joined my top on the floor. Her eyes drank me in, and the raw hunger in her gaze made me feel powerful, beautiful, seen in a way I never had before. Then her mouth was on me, hot and wet, her tongue laving one top peak while her fingers teased the other. I cried out, my fingers digging into her shoulders. The dual assault was overwhelming, a cascade of sensation that had my hips rocking uselessly against the air. The faint, rhythmic thump of the bass from the other room seemed to sync with the pounding in my blood. She dropped to her knees, her hands hooking into the waistband of my jeans. She looked up at me, a queen of chaos kneeling before her newfound subject. Her gaze was a physical touch. "These need to go." I could only nod, my breath catching in my throat. The rasp of the zipper was obscenely loud. She peeled the denim down my legs, her hands smoothing over my thighs, my calves, helping me step out of them. I stood before her in just my simple cotton panties, completely exposed, more turned on than I had ever been in my life. She didn't move for a long moment, just let her eyes roam over my body, stoking the fire higher. Then she leaned forward and pressed a soft, open-mouthed kiss against the damp fabric covering my core. I jolted, a full-body shudder racking through me. I can't handle this." "Please," I whimpered, not even sure what I was asking for. "Please, what?" she murmured, her breath hot through the cotton, her tongue tracing a slow, torturous line. "Please, don't stop." The rattling stopped. A muffled curse from the other side of the door. Then a jingle of keys. Ava's grin widened, a flash of white in the dim light. Her hazel eyes, dark with desire just a moment ago, now sparkled with pure, unadulterated mischief. "Seems someone's impatient," she purred, her voice a low, thrilling vibration against my skin. She didn't move from between my legs, her presence an intoxicating warmth I never knew I craved. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of panic and a strange, sharp thrill. "Ava, wait, oh God," I tried to sit up, to cover myself, but her hands on my thighs held me firmly, gently in place. "Shush," she soothed, though her eyes casted chaos. "It's just Chloe. She won't mind." The lock clicked. The door swung open, flooding the room with a sudden burst of music and laughter from the party downstairs. It hit me like thunder, the reality of where we were crashing back into the intimate little world we'd built. Chloe stood in the doorway, her athletic frame silhouetted by the hall light, a ring of keys dangling from her finger. Her warm smile faltered for just a second, her eyes widening as they adjusted to the dim light and took in the scene, me, half-naked and flushed, sprawled on the bed, and Ava, fully clothed and utterly in command between my bare legs. "Whoa," Chloe breathed, a slow, impressed smile spreading across her face. "Ava, you work fast." She didn't look shocked. She looked amused, interested. Ava didn't even glance back. Her eyes were locked on mine, holding me captive. "I was just giving Lily a proper party welcome," she said, her tone dripping with casual arrogance. Her thumb began to trace slow, lazy circles high on my inner thigh, so close, so maddeningly close to where I needed her. I shuddered, a fresh wave of heat flushing through me, my earlier embarrassment morphing into something else entirely under the weight of their combined gaze. "Looks like she's enjoying it," Chloe observed, her voice playful. She stepped fully into the room and closed the door softly behind her, shutting out the noise of the party. The lock clicked again, this time locking us all in together. The intimacy of the room returned, but now it was charged with a new, dangerous energy. "Don't let me stop you." Ava's grin was wicked. I wasn't planning on it. Finally, she turned her head to look at Chloe. "Want a closer look?" I whimpered, my cheeks burning. This was insane. I should be mortified. But a traitorous, aching part of me was screaming for more. For them both to look. To see what Ava was making me feel. Chloe moved to the side of the bed, her presence a new warmth near my hip. She looked down at me, her expression not leering, but genuinely captivated. "She's beautiful, Ava." "I know," Ava said, her attention returning to me. Her eyes softened for a fraction of a second, a look that felt almost like pride, before the mask of seduction slipped back into place. "And she's so very responsive." To prove her point, she finally lowered her head and pressed a soft, open-mouthed kiss right at the very apex of my thighs. I cried out, my back arching off the bed. The sensation was electric, a direct current of pure pleasure that erased every thought, every worry. My hands fisted in the dark comforter. Ava's tongue began to move in a slow, deliberate rhythm, licking a long, firm stripe through my slick heat. Oh God. Oh God. My hips lifted of their own accord, seeking more pressure, more of her. Every nerve ending was on fire, focused entirely on that one point of contact. "See?" Ava murmured, her voice husky. "She can't get enough." Chloe let out a soft, breathy laugh. "I can see that." I felt the bed dip as she sat beside my hip. A moment later, her fingers, surprisingly gentle, brushed my hair back from my forehead. The contrast was staggering. Ava's fierce, demanding mouth between my legs and Chloe's soothing touch on my face. It was too much. It was everything. I was completely exposed, completely at their mercy, and I had never felt more powerful in my life. This was what I had been missing. This raw, unashamed claiming. Ava's techniques were relentless. She'd swirl her tongue in tight circles, making me gasp, then flatten it for broad, languid strokes that had me moaning. She'd gently suck the sensitive flesh, and my whole body would jolt. I was a writhing, pleading mess beneath her, completely lost to the sensations. "You like that, don't you, good girl?" Ava murmured against me, the vibrations from her voice sending another shockwave through my core. "Yes," I choked out, the word barely a whisper. "Yes, please." "Look at her, Chloe," Ava commanded, not stopping her delicious torment for a second. "Look how pretty she is when she comes apart." And I felt Chloe's gaze join Ava's, drinking in the sight of me unraveling. The heat of their attention was its own kind of touch, feeding the fire Ava was stoking. My breath came in ragged pants. The coil of tension in my lower belly was wound impossibly tight, a spring ready to snap. Ava slipped 2 fingers inside me with a smooth, effortless motion, curling them just right. I shouted, the sound torn from my throat. That was it. That was the spot. She pumped her fingers slowly, in time with the flicking of her tongue. I think she's close, Chloe said, her voice laced with awe. I know she is, Ava replied. Her words were hot against my skin. Come on, Lily. Let go. Show us. Show us how good it feels. The permission, the command, the dual presence of these 2 stunning women witnessing my absolute surrender, it shattered me. The coil snapped. Pleasure, white-hot and absolute, exploded out from my core, radiating through every limb, every digit. My vision widened out. A raw, guttural cry was ripped from my lungs as my body convulsed, shaking uncontrollably under Ava's relentless mouth and hands. The waves seemed to go on forever, each pulse a dizzying peak of sensation that left me breathless and boneless. When the last tremor finally subsided, I collapsed back onto the bed, utterly spent. My chest heaved. Ava lifted her head, her chin glistening, a look of fierce satisfaction on her face. She gently withdrew her fingers, and the loss of contact made me whimper. Chloe's hand was still in my hair, stroking gently. Wow, she whispered, her smile audible. Ava crawled up my body, her leather pants creaking, and hovered over me. She smelled of me, of her perfume, of sin. She kissed me, deep and slow, and I could taste myself on her lips, a tangy, intimate flavor that should have shocked me, but only made me kiss her back harder, my hands tangling in her messy dark waves. She broke the kiss, her hazel eyes blazing down at me. That was just the beginning, she said softly, her voice a low thrum that went straight to my core, which was already, impossibly, stirring back to life. She glanced over at Chloe, her grin returning. Your turn to choose. What should we show her next? Ava's hazel eyes, still dark with the heat of my climax, flicked from my face to Chloe's. That predatory grin of hers returned, a silent promise of more wicked things to come. Your turn to choose, she'd said. But she wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Chloe. My breath hitched as Ava's voice, a low and thrilling command, cut through the heavy air. Chloe. Off. Now. Chloe's warm, inviting smile widened into something more knowing, more carnal. She didn't hesitate. With a fluidity that spoke of her athletic confidence, she pulled her tight t-shirt over her head, revealing a simple black bra that strained over firm, toned muscles. Her hands went to the button of her jeans, popping it open, and she shimmied out of them, standing before us in just her bra and a pair of black panties that hugged the powerful curve of her hips. I couldn't look away. This was different. Watching. I was a spectator to my own deepest, most secret fantasy, playing out in vibrant, real-life color just a few feet from where I lay, my body still humming from Ava's touch. Ava's gaze drank Chloe in, a flicker of pure appreciation in her eyes. God, you're beautiful, she murmured, the words thick with desire. She closed the distance between them in 2 swift steps, her leather-clad body a study in dark contrast to Chloe's warm, bare skin. She didn't just kiss her. She consumed her. One hand snaked into Chloe's tousled hair, fisting it gently but firmly, tilting her head back. The other hand slid down the sweat-slicked plane of Chloe's back, pulling their bodies flush together. And then Ava's mouth was on hers in a kiss that was all fire and possession. It wasn't like the slow, exploratory kisses she'd given me. This was a language they both knew fluently, a raw, hungry dance of teeth and tongue. A soft, desperate sound escaped my lips, which felt suddenly empty and cold. I watched, mesmerized, as Ava's tongue swept into Chloe's mouth. I saw the muscles in Chloe's abdomen clench, heard her low, guttural moan vibrate against Ava's lips. Chloe's hands came up, not to push away, but to grip Ava's leather-clad hips, her fingers digging into the supple material, holding on as if she might drown in the sensation. The air in the room, already thick with the scent of sex and perfume, grew heavier, charged with a new, intoxicating energy. My skin prickled. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat matching the frantic rhythm of their kiss. My own core, so recently sated, began to pulse with a fresh, aching need. I was dissolving, losing myself in the voyeuristic thrill of it all. Ava broke the kiss, both of them panting. A string of saliva glistened between their lips for a second before snapping. Ava's voice was ragged, a husky whisper meant only for Chloe, but it echoed in the silent, spellbound room. "You taste like trouble." Chloe laughed, a breathless, turned-on sound. "You love it." "I do," Ava growled, and she attacked her neck instead, sucking a dark mark onto the tender skin just above Chloe's collarbone. Chloe's head fell back, a genuine cry of pleasure tearing from her throat. Her eyes, heavy-lidded with lust, found mine over Ava's shoulder. She held my gaze as Ava's mouth worked on her skin, as Ava's hands slid down to cup her backside, squeezing roughly. Chloe's expression was a mix of blissful agony and shared conspiracy. She was letting me see. She was including me in this, showing me what pleasure looked like on her, inviting me to feel it with her. I was on fire. My hand, acting entirely on its own, drifted down my stomach, my fingers brushing through my own wetness. I was so wet again. The sight of them, the sounds they made, it was unraveling me completely. Ava pulled back from Chloe's neck, leaving a vivid red mark behind. She turned her blazing gaze back to me, her chest rising and falling rapidly. "See something you like, Lily?" she purred, her voice dripping with sinful assurance. I could only nod, my throat too tight to form words. "Good," she said, her grin widening. She kept one arm locked around Chloe's waist, holding her close, as she used her free hand to reach behind Chloe and unclip her bra with a practiced, single-handed flick. The garment fell away, and Chloe's breasts sprang free, full and perfect, her nipples pebbled tight with arousal. Ava's hand covered one, her thumb circling the top peak slowly, deliberately, making Chloe arch into her touch with a sharp inhale. "She's so responsive," Ava said, her eyes still glued to me, teaching me, showing me. "Every touch is a lightning strike." She pinched the nipple gently, and Chloe moaned, her eyes fluttering shut. Then Ava guided Chloe, turning her so they were both facing me, a live display of ecstasy meant just for my eyes. "I think our audience wants a closer look," Ava whispered into Chloe's ear, but loud enough for me to hear. "Show her how much you're enjoying this." Chloe's eyes opened, dark with need. She brought her own hands up to her breasts, cupping them, offering them to my view. She ran her thumbs over her own nipples, her breath catching. "Like this?" she asked, her voice husky. "Yes," I breathed out, the word finally breaking free. Ava's hands slid down Chloe's stomach, slipping beneath the waistband of her black panties. Chloe's hips jerked forward, a shudder racking her frame as Ava's fingers found their mark. I could see the movement of Ava's forearm, the focused intensity on her face as she worked her hand. Chloe's performance for me became less controlled, more primal. Her head fell back against Ava's shoulder, her mouth falling open as soft, continuous whimpers escaped her. Her own hands stilled on her breasts, simply gripping them now as she rode the waves of sensation Ava was pulling from her. The scent of Chloe's arousal, musky and sweet, joined ours in the air. I watched, hypnotized, as Ava's fingers moved, hidden by black cotton, and I knew exactly what she was doing. The circling pressure, the slow, teasing strokes, the sudden, delicious dips inside. I knew because I could still feel the ghost of it between my own legs. I was touching myself in earnest now, my fingers mimicking the rhythm I imagined Ava's were using, my own pleasure building in a dizzying crescendo fueled by the breathtaking show before me. Chloe's hips began to move in a frantic, rolling rhythm, fucking herself on Ava's hand. "Ava. God, right there. Please," she begged, her voice cracking. Ava kissed her neck, her eyes locked on mine. "Look at her, Lily. Look at how beautiful she is when she comes." It was a command I was happy to obey. I watched, my own movements stilling, completely captivated. Chloe's body went rigid. A broken, gasping cry was torn from her lungs, and she came apart against Ava, her entire body shaking with the force of her orgasm. Ava held her tight, working her through it, until Chloe finally went limp in her arms, breathing in ragged, shuddering gasps. For a moment, the only sound was our combined, heavy breathing. Ava gently withdrew her hand from Chloe's panties, her fingers glistening in the low light. She brought them to her own mouth, sucking them clean without breaking eye contact with me, a final, devastatingly erotic image that seared itself into my brain. Still supporting a boneless Chloe, Ava took a step toward the bed, her expression a mix of triumph and raw hunger. "Now," she said, her voice thick with unspoken temptation that vibrated deep in my bones. Every whisper thick with unspoken temptation, something hot and lustful that wrapped around me and pulled tight. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the sudden, heavy silence of the room. Chloe, still breathing heavily, gave a lazy, sated smile and slowly peeled herself away from Ava's support. "Your turn, sweet Lily," Chloe murmured, her voice husky. She moved with a new, languid grace as she came to the side of the bed, her warm, inviting smile now a knowing, intimate curve. Ava's hazel eyes, dark with intent, never left mine. She placed a firm hand on Chloe's shoulder, guiding her down. "On your knees, between her legs," she commanded, her tone leaving no room for question, only thrumming with anticipation. Chloe obeyed without a word, her athletic frame settling onto the floor beside the bed. She leaned in, her hips swaying slightly as she positioned herself, her face now level with my trembling thighs. The sight of her there, so eager, so ready, sent a fresh, dizzying wave of heat crashing through me. I could feel the dampness between my legs, a desperate, aching pulse that begged for attention. Ava prowled around to the other side of the bed, the leather of her pants whispering with each step. She leaned over me, her messy dark waves brushing my cheek. Her scent, a mix of night air and her own unique, intoxicating musk, filled my lungs. "You're going to watch me watch her taste you," she breathed directly into my ear, her voice a low, gritty whisper that made my stomach clench. "Every twitch on your face, every shudder, it's all for me." My breath hitched. This was a new level of exposure, of vulnerability. It wasn't just about feeling anymore, it was about being a spectacle, a beautiful, writhing display for Ava's pleasure. The thought should have terrified me, but it only fanned the flames higher. Chloe didn't need a further command. Her hands, strong and sure, slid under my thighs, hooking under my knees and gently pushing my legs further apart, opening me completely to the cool air and her hungry gaze. I was utterly exposed, laid bare. My head fell back against the pillows, a soft moan escaping my lips. Then I felt it. Not her mouth, not yet. First, just the soft, warm puff of her breath against my most sensitive skin. A tease. Sweet seduction. I whimpered, my hips giving an involuntary, tiny jerk upwards, seeking contact, seeking pressure, seeking anything. A low, throaty laugh came from Ava above me. So eager for it, she purred, her fingers trailing down my sternum, over my quivering stomach. But you have to be patient. Good things. Chloe's tongue, flat and hot, finally made contact. It wasn't a tentative lick. It was a long, slow, deliberate stroke from bottom to top, acclaiming, "Come to those who wait." Ava finished, her words blurring into the sensation. A cry, sharp and unbidden, tore from my throat. My back arched off the bed. Oh God. It was so much more than I had ever imagined. Her tongue was relentless, tracing every fold, exploring every hidden, secret part of me with a confident curiosity that left me gasping. She swirled it around my aching center, applying just the right amount of pressure to make me see stars behind my closed eyelids. Eyes open, Lily. Ava's voice cut through the pleasure fog, firm and undeniable. Look at her. See how she worships you. I forced my eyes open, my vision swimming. Chloe's face was buried between my legs, her eyes closed in concentration, in evident enjoyment. The sight was the most obscenely beautiful thing I had ever witnessed. Her warm, inviting smile was gone, replaced by a mask of pure, primal focus on giving pleasure. On giving me pleasure. Ava's hand was on my breast, pinching my nipple rhythmically, the sharp bursts of pain a perfect counterpoint to the liquid heat Chloe was stoking between my legs. I was being played like an instrument, and they were both master musicians. Chloe shifted her tactics, her mouth closing over me, sucking gently while the tip of her tongue focused on that one, hypersensitive spot. A continuous, low groan was building in my chest, my fingers tangling in the sheets. I was losing all control, all sense of anything but the twin points of sensation, Ava's demanding hands on my breasts and Chloe's wicked, wonderful mouth between my thighs. She's good, isn't she? Ava whispered, her own breath becoming uneven as she watched. She loves this, loves the taste of you. Loves feeling you come apart on her tongue. Her words were a catalyst. The coil of tension in my core, which had been winding tighter and tighter, suddenly snapped. A climax, shockingly intense and wholly consuming, ripped through me. My world dissolved into a white-hot scream of sensation. I shook, my legs clamping instinctively around Chloe's head as wave after wave of pure, undiluted ecstasy crashed over me, pulling me under. Through the haze, I felt Chloe's soft moans of satisfaction against my sensitive flesh, drinking me in, drawing out every last tremor until I was completely spent, a boneless, gasping wreck on the bed. Slowly, gently, Chloe pulled away, her chin glistening. She looked up at me, her smile returning, now laced with a shared, intimate secret. She leaned forward and placed a soft, lingering kiss on my inner thigh. Ava's gaze was blazing with triumph and a deeper, hungrier fire. She cupped Chloe's cheek, a gesture of possession and praise. Then she looked back at me, her eyes dropping to my thoroughly pleasured, utterly exposed body. "Such a good girl for us," she said, her voice laced with wicked intent. "But we're not nearly done with you yet." Her eyes flicked to Chloe. "Hold her legs open. Wider." A shiver of pure anticipation coursed through my sated body at Ava's command. My muscles, so recently turned to liquid, tensed with a new, eager energy. Chloe's hands, gentle yet firm, slid from my knees down to my ankles, pulling my legs apart until I felt utterly exposed, the cool air of the room a stark contrast to the heat blooming at my core. My eyes were locked on Ava as she moved. It was a predator's glide, a study in confident ownership of the space between my thighs. She didn't look away from me, her hazel eyes holding mine captive as she nudged Chloe's shoulder. "My turn," she murmured, her tone weighted with carnal invitation. Chloe yielded her position with a soft, knowing laugh, crawling up to kneel beside my head. Her fingers, still warm from her own body, trailed up my stomach and came to rest, gently cupping my face. "Just watch," she whispered, her breath tickling my ear. "Just feel." Then Ava was there. Where Chloe had been methodical and exploratory, Ava was direct and demanding. She didn't tease. She simply lowered her mouth to me and took. A raw, guttural cry was torn from my throat. My back arched off the bed, my hands fisting the tangled sheets. Her tongue was a flat, hot brand against my oversensitive flesh, laving me with broad, possessive strokes that left no part of me untouched. Oh God. It's different. So different. Where Chloe had been a gentle rain, Ava was a thunderstorm, relentless and earth-shattering. Her technique was devastating. She used her lips to suck, her tongue to probe, her teeth to graze with just the right amount of exquisite pressure. She knew exactly how to build the tension anew, coiling it tight in my belly until I was trembling, my hips lifting off the mattress, seeking more, begging for more without saying a word. I was lost in the sensation, drowning in the feel of her when I felt Chloe's lips on my neck. She was kissing a fiery trail along my jawline, her hands roaming over my breasts, pinching my nipples until they were hard, aching pebbles. My awareness split, torn between the devastating pleasure between my legs and the slow, torturous exploration above. "Look at me, Lily," Chloe whispered, her voice husky. My eyes, which had been squeezed shut, fluttered open. Chloe's face was inches from mine, her warm smile replaced by an expression of intense, shared voyeurism. She was watching me unravel, and the raw desire in her gaze sent another jolt through my system. "See how beautiful you are when you come apart," she breathed, her thumb tracing my lower lip. "See how much she wants to devour you?" I could only moan in response, a broken, pleading sound. My gaze shifted from Chloe's intense stare down to Ava. Her dark waves were splayed across my inner thighs, her head moving with a rhythmic intensity that was pushing me closer and closer to the edge. The sight of her there, so focused, so consumed by tasting me, was the most potent aphrodisiac I could ever imagine. Ava pulled back for a breath, her chin gleaming. Her eyes, dark and heavy-lidded with lust, met mine. "You taste even better than I imagined," she growled, the sound vibrating against my throbbing core. "I could feast on you for hours." She didn't wait for a reply. She dove back in, and this time, her focus was pinpoint. Her tongue found my clit and zeroed in, flicking against the swollen bud with a rapid, merciless precision that had me seeing stars. My breath hitched, my entire world narrowing to that single, electrifying point of contact. Chloe held my face, forcing me to keep my eyes open. "That's it," she coaxed, her own voice ragged with excitement. "Let her make you come. Come for her, Lily. Show her how good she makes you feel." I was babbling, nonsensical words and choked pleas falling from my lips. "Please. Ava, don't stop." "I can't." "I'm going to." The coil snapped. My climax didn't wash over me, it shattered me. It was a violent, seismic eruption that ripped through my body with a force that stole the air from my lungs. A silent scream was locked in my throat as my body bowed, every muscle seizing in ecstatic agony. The waves of pleasure were endless, each one crashing into the next, made infinitely more intense by the relentless, sucking pressure of Ava's mouth and the tight grip of Chloe's hands on my face, holding me together as I completely fell apart. Slowly, so slowly, the sensations receded, leaving me a trembling, sobbing mess on the sheets. Ava gentled her ministrations, lapping softly at my sensitive flesh, drawing out the last few shudders until I whimpered from the overstimulation. She finally lifted her head, a goddess of sins satisfied. She crawled up my body, her leather-clad legs straddling my hips. She leaned down, her face still glistening with my release, and captured my mouth in a deep, bruising kiss. I could taste myself on her lips, a musky, intimate flavor that was uniquely us. When she broke the kiss, she was smiling, a wicked, triumphant curve of her lips. "There's my good girl," she purred. From beside me, Chloe let out a shaky exhale. "Fuck, Ava." Her voice was full of awe and a hunger that mirrored my own. Ava's gaze flicked to her, then back to me, her eyes gleaming with a new, dangerous idea. "Your turn to watch, Chloe." Her hands went to the buckle of her belt. "I think it's time our beautiful Lily learned how to use her mouth." Ava's fingers paused on her belt buckle, her predatory gaze locked on mine. She saw the raw, unvarnished fear and desire warring within me. A slow, understanding smile spread across her glistening lips. On second thought, she purred, her voice a low thrum that vibrated straight through my core. She let the belt drop. "Lessons can wait. I'm not done with you yet." She shifted off of me, her leather pants whispering against the sheets. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of confusion and desperate anticipation. I watched, breath caught in my throat, as she gestured for Chloe to move. "Come here." "Hold her." Chloe didn't hesitate. She moved behind me, her warm, solid body molding against my back. Her strong arms came around me, not to restrain, but to embrace, one hand splaying across my stomach, the other coming to rest just below my collarbone. "I've got you," she whispered into my ear, her breath warm and reassuring. "Just feel it, Lily. Just let go." Ava positioned herself between my legs again, pushing them apart with an effortless, practiced confidence. Her hazel eyes burned with an intensity that stole the air from my lungs. She wasn't just looking at me, she was seeing every secret tremor, every hidden ache I'd ever felt. "You've been so good," she murmured, her hands sliding up the inside of my thighs, making every muscle quiver. "So responsive. So perfect. But I want to see you completely come undone. I want to feel you shatter." Her head dipped down. The first touch of her tongue was a lightning strike. A jolt of pure, unadulterated pleasure so sharp and sudden that a broken cry tore from my lips. Chloe's arms tightened around me, a grounding force as Ava's world-ending mouth began its work. This wasn't like before. This was deeper, more focused. An act of pure, concentrated devotion to my pleasure. She wasn't just tasting me, she was learning me. Her tongue delved into my core with slow, languid strokes that made my back arch off the bed. Chloe's hand on my stomach held me down, keeping me connected to the earth even as I threatened to float away. "That's it," Chloe coaxed in my ear, her own voice husky with arousal. "Look at her. Look how much she loves doing that to you." I forced my eyes open, my head lolling back against Chloe's shoulder. The sight was the most erotic thing I had ever witnessed. Ava, this vision of powerful, leather-clad confidence, her face buried between my legs, her eyes closed in concentration. A soft, contented hum vibrated against my most sensitive flesh, and my entire body convulsed. Ava's hands gripped my hips, her fingers pressing into my skin, holding me perfectly still for her mouth. She changed her rhythm, her tongue flattening to circle my clit with a steady, relentless pressure that was utterly maddening. Slow, then fast. A soft flicker, then a firm, sucking pull. She was building a fire, stoking it with every movement, every breath. I was babbling nonsense words and fractured pleas falling from my lips. "Please. Ava, oh God, right there. Please." She moaned in response, the sound sending another shockwave through me. She was enjoying this just as much as I was. My pleasure was her fuel. The realization broke something open inside me. My hips began to move of their own accord, meeting the rhythm of her mouth, seeking more, needing more. Chloe's hand slid up from my stomach to cup my breast, her thumb brushing over my taut nipple, pinching it gently. The dual sensations, Ava's relentless mouth below, Chloe's clever hands above, shattered my last semblance of control. I was a live wire, every nerve ending screaming. Ava felt the change, the impending crash. She doubled her efforts, her tongue becoming a weapon of pure ecstasy. She slipped 2 fingers inside me, curling them upward, finding a spot that made stars explode behind my eyelids. There. Right there. The pressure coiled impossibly tight, a spring wound to its breaking point. My cries became one continuous, desperate sound. I was clutching at Chloe's arms, my nails digging into her skin. The world narrowed to the feeling of Ava's mouth, her fingers, Chloe's hold, the smell of sex and perfume and sweat. I can't, I sobbed, the words tearing from a place I didn't know existed. I'm going to. Ava, I'm. My warning became a silent scream as the climax ripped through me. It was apocalyptic. It wasn't a wave, it was a tsunami, crashing over me, pulling me under, destroying everything in its path. My body bowed off the bed, held only by Chloe's strong embrace. Violent, uncontrollable tremors racked my frame, my legs shaking violently around Ava's head. She didn't pull away. She drank me in, her moans mingling with the wet, desperate sounds of her mouth drawing out every last, pulsing shockwave until I was utterly spent, collapsing back into Chloe's arms like a doll with its strings cut. I was trembling, every muscle liquefied, my breath coming in ragged, shattered gasps. Ava finally lifted her head, her chin slick, her eyes blazing with primal satisfaction. She looked utterly debauched and more beautiful than I could comprehend. She crawled up my quivering body, a slow, predatory smile gracing her perfect lips. She didn't say a word. She just hovered over my face, her gaze holding mine captive, her own taste still on her breath.